Hello, dreamy people. If I ask you to envision an apple or a tractor or the face of your mother, are you able to call that up in your mind? If you can't, you might have aphantasia. And we're going to talk on the show all about how aphantasia affects dreams. So stay with me. We'll be right with you. Welcome to the Kelly Sullivan Walden Show, where we explore nighttime dreams, daytime desires, and the best ways to transform the tragic into magic. Because let's face it, we all dream, we all have our blessings, and we all have our challenges, myself included. And I don't want any of us to take any of those things lying down, if you know what I mean. I just wrote a book entitled A Crisis is a Terrible Thing to Waste. I'm excited to explore the topic with you, whether it relates to your waking or sleeping dreams, because we're dreaming all the time, people. So let's make it the best dream possible. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome. Welcome to the show today. Okay, let me bring out my guest first, my co-host, Nancy T, who needs no introduction, but I'll give her a little introduction. First of all, hello, Nancy T.
Hello, Kelly.
Hi, honey. It's been a minute since I've had you on.
It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. So, and Nancy T, by the way, is an actor. She is a healer, energy healer. She is somebody who can help you get your whole life organized and all your stuff and all your belongings. And oh my God, is she an incredible editor as well? Is there anything you can't do? She also impersonates Cher, like, okay, so Nancy T is amazing, and I'm so happy that you're here. We're going to be talking with Sue Ganz Schmidt in just a moment, and I'm just going to tell everybody about her. Sue's a children's book author, musical theater producer, and she is an SCBWI member. I'm not sure what that means, but I think it's really cool. She's a philanthropist. She holds an MFA from Vermont College of Fine Arts in writing for children and young adults. She's performed Rent. She was in Rent on Broadway. Sue, I did not know these things. Oh my God, that's my favorite show. How did I not know that about you? She has run a marathon. She pursues all kinds of improbable and exciting challenges. She is one of the most incredible humans on the planet. Her books that I love so much include Skybound, starring Mary Myers as Carlotta, Daredevil, Aeronaut, and Scientist, That Monster on the Block, Now I'm a Bird, Planet Kindergarten, 100 Day in Orbit, The Princess and the Peanut, and A Royally Allergic Fairy Tale, and even superheroes get diabetes. That Party Monster on the Block is coming in 2025. So she is one of the most amazing humans. She served as a NASA social media correspondent and volunteer for the Planetary Society. And she's one of my favorite humans on the planet. And the other day, as I bring her out, I'm going to say, Sue. Hello, Sue.
Hello, Kelly and Nancy.
So Sue was telling me, and she's one of the most creative people on the planet, as is Nancy T. So there's a lot of commonalities here. Sue's one of the most creative humans I know, and yet she was telling me that she's got aphantasia, which is being talked about a lot in the media. And that's where and Sue, you're going to describe it in more detail, but it's basically the inability to visualize. And yet you're so creative and you're so talented and you create so many things. So I was shocked because I would expect somebody who can't see things to not be creative. And yet you are incredibly creative. And then Nancy T, coincidentally, was telling me that she thinks her daughter has aphantasia. And she's also an incredibly creative human. So let's unpack it. So, Sue, let's start with you. How did you just recently kind of came to understand this? Tell me about that.
Yeah,
How you came to that.
I was just I was on YouTube and some interesting videos came up and a woman was talking about how she has I'll say aphantasia because I just like saying it that way better, but it can be called aphantasia, it can be
Right.
called aphantasia, aphantasia. Um,
Or if you're British, Aphantasia.
exactly. So
Uh,
I think of it like the Disney movie Fantasia, with the vivid imagery that Mickey is experiencing. And I imagine that's how the rest of you see things when you close your eyes and you can imagine something. When I close my eyes, I see nothing. It's blank. It's dark in there. There might be some areas of like black with mixed in grays, depending on what light source might be coming through. But I had no idea that the rest of you could actually see things when you close your eyes. So when you count sheep, I think most of you, 97% of you, because about 3% of people they're discovering have aphantasia. I think the rest of you actually see sheep, right? Kelly, what do you see? You see sheep.
I see sheep. Nancy, what do you see? Oh, I don't think Nancy can hear me. Oh, okay. We're having that sound issue. She's having a audible. Oh no. So Nancy T, shut down your thing and come back. Come back, little Sheba. Um, I can see sheep like jumping over a little, I don't know, like a thing like in a track meet, whatever you call those, like a hurdle. That's what I picture. So I think my question to Nancy T and to anyone else is, can you see sheep? Nancy T, are you having a hard time hearing me? Okay. I don't know. So Sue, just keep telling us about aphantasia because
Yeah,
Nancy's
yeah.
not
So
able to hear us.
So yeah, you're correct. It's the inability to visualize. It's image-free thinking, also called mind blindness. Now, there's a whole spectrum. So some people may see nothing, like me. I have a blank screen, and other people may see some vague imagery. And then there are people who, all along the spectrum, right up to it's so vivid and real, you can't tell the difference between um, your imagination and reality. So there's that whole spectrum. It also can include other uh, sensory issues, like where you can't imagine a sense of smell, sense of taste, movement. All the other sensory issues for me are lacking. So I'm multi-sensory aphantasic. And again, yeah, I just discovered this watching a YouTube video, and I think that is commonly how people are finding out about this right now, and um, learning that there's a whole other rich imaginative world that most of the population taps into. So, and it's still very poorly understood. The first account was in the 1800s, around 1880. A gentleman named Sir Francis Galton was doing a study, and he was talking to people and asking them to imagine what they had for breakfast that day, and could they see it and describe it. And there were a few people in the group that could not see it. They couldn't imagine it in their mind's eye. And so that was, I think, one of the earlier recorded instances of this. And then more recently in 2015, Dr. Adam Zeman coined the term aphantasia. And he became aware of it when one of his neurosurgery patients came out and had lost the ability to visualize. And so once that was reported, it was picked up by some media, and people were saying, hey, I've always had this inability. And so it's kind of taken off lately as far as falling into more popular awareness. Now, you might be someone right now going, wait, what? Other people can see images in their mind? And it's a little bit shocking at first. And I got to tell you, there's a huge sense of FOMO, because you Kelly and most of your viewers have an extra screen in your mind. And we haven't talked about dreams yet, but there's a whole other screen that you also have there that some people with aphantasia have and others don't. I don't really have dreams in the way most people do. And now we've lost Kelly. And oh, this reminds me. So in addition to not having the ability to visualize in your mind, some people have very silent minds, meaning you can't hear your own thoughts when you
Oh,
think.
wow.
Kind of like what just happened with Kelly. That was just an example of that. Very well done.
Can you hear me now, though?
Yes.
I was just trying to give an example of what this is like, where you try to do something and you can't do it. Okay, so what I want to know, you and I talked a little bit about this yesterday, about what it's like for you when you do dream, since you're not processed, because so much of dreams take place in the visual cortex, and that's not the only thing that's happening, but the visual cortex is a huge part of what we're using to process our dreams, or what's happening. So what do you see, or what do you feel when you're dreaming?
Yeah. So when I dream, someone on Reddit described it perfectly for me. It's like vague plot lines. There's something going on, and there are emotions. Usually for me, it's frustration. Like I'm trying to get somewhere or pack for something, and I just can't get it done, and there are all the obstacles, but I'm not really seeing anything. Now, one thing about aphantasia is that it can be congenital, or as with the guy with the surgery, it can be some sort of brain trauma. I've read it could have to do with PTSD in some cases. They're still figuring all this out.
'Cause you had a, your head, you got your head hit when you were little.
Yeah.
And you were
So
telling me that before that you did have some very vividly imagined or vivid
dreams.
dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only remember ever having two vivid dreams. One when I was 2 or 3 years old, and I know that age because we lived in a different house, and my dream took
Okay.
place in that house. And the other was when I was about 4 years old. So, and I remember how bright and vivid those dreams were, and I don't remember any since then. So when I was 5, I got my brother, my slightly older brother, pushed me down in the shower, knocked out my 2 front teeth.
Oh, no,
So I
not that.
imagine
Mean older brother.
he's much nicer now. Yeah, but yeah, and I blacked out. So it must have been a pretty hard fall, considering that I fell on my face, knocked out my teeth, probably hit my nose. And so I wonder, because also don't have a good sense of smell. Could it have been that, or could it have always been there? I don't know. But yeah, I don't see colors when I close my eyes. I don't see colors in my dreams. It's more conceptual things that are going on. And that's one of the big differences, is that our imagination is more conceptual.
And what's interesting, I've been to your home, and like you're such an artist. Like everything around you is like, you just create so much beauty, and the color and the textures, and everything is so beautiful. How do you design a space even when you're not in that space? I mean, how do you do that?
Well, yeah, it's like I love art and design, but it is a challenge for me, because if you were to tell me to draw anything, I really can't draw anything, barely stick figures. So I don't illustrate my own books. I just come up with the words. But when I see something I like, I can see if it feels like it goes together. I can appreciate the art that I'm seeing. Um, One creative that some people here might be familiar with is a gentleman named Glenn Keane, and he was the artist from Disney who he was behind the Little Mermaid imagery. So he is aphantasic, and he creates by putting the lines on the paper and then figuring them out. So there are many artists that have this condition, and it's a condition. It's not an illness. It's just a condition. And he is able to create by putting lines down. And Ed Catmull, who is the founder and president of Pixar, also aphantasic,
Oh,
said
wow.
about Ed that he is one of the best animators of hand-drawn animation in the world. So,
Whoa.
yeah, so what happens is new different pathways are used in the
Mm,
creative process for people like me versus people who, can create that imagery in their mind. So, and they've done some recent studies, and they've shown that there's no indication that we're less creative or less capable in any way. It's just different.
and you just kind of like how maybe somebody who is dyslexic, they and that doesn't know they're dyslexic, but they figure out all these workarounds for how to read or how to spell or how to count or how to do those things. I mean, you've had this for a long time before you knew there was a term for it,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. So I've always struggled with, I've always loved dance, art, music, but I've always struggled in those areas, and I always felt kind of other. Um,
Mm,
in fact, one of my books, which is called picture books, which is called Now I'm a Bird, is about a little girl who in first grade starts turning into a bird feather by feather, and
right.
she's bullied, she feels differently than the other kids, and I think that sprang from my own childhood where I always felt like I could see other people doing drawing in class, painting with ease, and I've taken painting classes and really struggled. I just got certified in yoga and really struggled because our visual working memory doesn't hold the images. So if I'm shown a dance move or a yoga move, 30 seconds later, if I have to recreate it on my own, it's really difficult, but I can process it auditorily and figure it out.
So interesting. And I don't know if this is true. I know when I was studying human design, they were talking about, and human design is kind of a synthesis of astrology, Kabbalah, I Ching, and the chakra system in it. And you basically look at all the chakras in the body, and there's this one theory that any of the any of the chakras that don't naturally kind of become easily present in somebody's life becomes one of those areas of deep passion for people.
Mm,
So, for example, people that don't have a throat center defined, speaking, singing, expressing is like really important to them because it doesn't come easy. And
that's
people that maybe have it naturally, they're like, whatever. It's like, oh, this water I've been swimming in my whole life, says the fish. Swimming ain't no big thing. So I wonder if because you are like you create picture books, not just books. I mean, I write books that are all just filled with words and I picture things in my head as I go, but you literally create picture books that are full of these rich, rich images. I know you're not the artist that does it, but you create the landscape via words that an artist can then model. So when you're writing your picture books, what's going on? Even like with the bird, the Now
I
I'm a Bird, this girl that starts to fly. How did that happen?
Yeah, it's interesting to look at it with this lens, knowing now that I don't have the same kind of imagination, visual imagination. And I thought, oh yeah, I see it like a movie, but I think I'm just seeing it as not in color, not as imagery, but more concepts of what happens next. And I'm playing through it that way. So when I like, let's talk about reading a book without pictures, a non-picture book.
Right.
You are having probably a whole different experience than aphants have because the sensory details in that book are making it so real for you. And for
Right.
me, those sensory details are going in through my ears, not going into my eyes exactly. So for you, the movie will probably never be as good as the book. The characters will never live up to your expectations. Whereas for me, I
Oh,
couldn't really ever see them anyway.
oh,
And
that's interesting.
yeah, and maybe one of the reasons I've had a passion and a love for picture books is because the pictures are right there. I could see what's happening.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. This is like kind of the divine compensation because like there's more appreciation for those pictures right there, which might be, I would say, just from being like in the peanut gallery, part of the drive because you are so prolific. I mean, sometimes there was one day where you gave birth to 3 books at once. You're like, I've got triplets. Here they are. And, here's an interesting little factoid, and I don't know exactly how this fits in, but one person who was listening to an earlier iteration of my radio show, she used to listen every week, and she was very fascinated with dreams because she had been born blind. She was always blind. She never had been sighted, and yet she had incredibly vivid dreams, visually vivid dreams, where
Wow.
she could recount the colors and the size and I mean, see things that she had never seen, to be able to refer to, which is kind of a phenomenon.
I wonder if that's because
It's
she
almost
could
like the
picture.
reverse of aphantasia.
Yeah. I wonder if that's because she could imagine things. She
Yeah.
could visually imagine them in the
Yeah.
daytime as well when or her awake time, do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Mm.
I don't know, but I think this might be more common than we realize. But you were talking about, we're talking a little bit behind the back of Brad Pitt. He's not here to defend himself, so we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But what you were saying, that he has something that's similar to
I
aphantasia,
okay,
possibly.
maybe, yeah. I have not confirmed this.
Right.
So,
I will not deny nor confirm.
yeah, exactly. I had read somewhere, I don't know if this is accurate, so everyone go do your research, but I
Right.
had read that he is face blind, which, we can struggle with identifying faces. So if you've met someone 10 times and they still act like they don't know who you are, and you're like, "I've met you so many times," they may just process imagery differently, and it might not be a personal affront. It's just that, and this is one of the most fascinating things to me, is that we walk around and assume that everybody is processing the way we process is just the way people process. But I think it opens a great conversation with your loved ones, with your friends, like how they are processing visual imagery and sensory experiences in their imagination, because I think understanding that can help us understand each other better. Like
Yeah.
my daughter, for example, she's highly visual and she has really vivid dreams. Both of my daughters, they can rotate images in their mind, 3D, walk around them, which I cannot even I cannot even comprehend that almost. But like if we're going somewhere and we have the directions, I need the left, right, left, right. She
So
needs.
GPS is like a saving grace for you to be able to see, like, it.
Yeah, or if I hear left, right, left at the next
Okay.
street, and she cannot process that way. She has to have she'll say, "Just show me the map." So
Right.
so these little things can help us understand better that we do think so differently, and, yeah, it's fascinating to me, and now I'm asking everyone, like, "All right, like, let's just do this right now for a second. If you're not driving, close
Right,
your
let's do.
eyes." Okay, everyone close your eyes. I know we did a touch of this at the beginning, but close your
Mhm.
eyes and picture an apple. Where is the apple? Is it on a tree? Is it on a field? Um, can you take it off? Can you pick it up and hold it in your hands and feel it? Can you smell it? If you take a bite of it, can you taste it? Can you throw it over the fence if there's a fence? And so some of you, again, right here, may realize you don't have access to any of that. And there are great resources for you that we can talk about in a few moments. Um, if you don't, because it's going to be quite an aha moment for you. But for the rest of you, you may see all of that as like an outline. You may see it with some detail, all the way up to the scale of, as we talked about, like the really vivid detail. And if you're at that other end of the scale, it's
Oh, let's talk about that.
hyperaphantasia, and you may even have uh, oh, I just forgot the
What
word, where you can sense colors, like you can your
mm,
senses are wrapped up with, like, you can attach a color to an to,
right, right. I'm gonna look it up.
yeah, sorry, I've just forgotten the name of that. But yeah, so that on the hyperaphantasia side. So So in all of this, the hippocampus, they believe, plays a role in it, and it's important in retrieving the vivid, rich, detailed information for us. And it's also autobiographical and gives us our sense of self because we can remember and be like really step back into our own shoes in experiences and see it and be there. See the faces of your loved ones. I can't see if I close my eyes, I can't see my kids' faces. My mom who passed, I can't see her face. I don't even know what my face shape is unless I'm looking in a mirror. Oh, we lost your voice again, Kel.
Synesthesia,
Yes,
synesthesia,
synesthesia, exactly.
synesthesia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then some of the other cognitive effects of you could have difficulty with long-term memory, trouble reminding things in vivid detail, a harder time remembering memories from childhood and adolescence, because you're just not storing that. Again, problems with people's faces. You might struggle in work or school because society relies on a lot of visual aids in learning, teaching, and working, and you can't store those. I have always been frustrated that I could not, if I wanted to kind of recreate a map of the US or know where a state is, I cannot come up with it. I,
Okay, hang on one second. So you were telling me, because you're about to go to Oxford, England,
yeah,
and you're about to go into the library that
yes,
Harry Potter was filmed in.
the
Like
Bodleian, yeah.
the what did you call it?
The Bodleian, if I'm saying it correctly, the Bodleian Library in Oxford
The
is the one
Bodleian
that was,
Library in Oxford. So it's
yeah,
like with books lined up to the rafters, like all the way to the ceiling. And I mean, so do you have is there any picture in your mind at all? Because you described it to me and now I see it because I
yeah,
just recently saw all the Harry Potters and read all the books. I was late to the party on that one, but I have it. I could see it. Do you see anything in that room at all, in that library at all?
not really. It's more the concept of what
Okay.
I know that it looked like versus like I can't see it. Like I can
Okay.
imagine the books on chains, these huge tombs chained to the shelves, but yeah, yeah, it's really hard to explain.
So what
Um,
I'd love to hear like one of your, if you'd be willing to share a dream, any dream that you do recall or that you'd be willing to share that is like a, would you, like you've been calling it an aphantasic dream.
um, yeah, I mean, I don't even really remember them. They're just mostly frustrations
Mm,
that I remember. That it's not like I get like the one dream I do one of the two dreams I do remember that were vivid was when I was like 4 years old and I was a big fan of the Bozo Show. For those of you who are old enough to remember the terrifying clown that entertained children and made them compete for toys and things. There was a huge like container, like almost like a trash container. It seemed like it was like 20 feet long by 8 feet wide. It was probably much smaller. And it was filled with games and toys. And I remember a dream where I was on the show and I won. That was my greatest wish. I won the bin of toys. And then I woke up and I was so sad that I had not won. Literally the last color dream I remember.
oh my God, until mean older brother, previously mean older brother pushed you down. And you and I talked about how that dream nowadays, if you knew what you know now, you might not have been so sad when you woke up because the
Yes.
dream ain't over just because you woke up. You did win that massive trash bin, a dumpster of toys, like a dumpster filled with toys. You are so creative and so playful and so colorful and rich. Like you have all that. You did win.
Thank you. There's been so I've learned a lot by following. So if you discover you want to know more about this, you can go on to Reddit or Facebook. There are lots of groups, and you can learn. You can connect with people going through the experience of newly discovering that you have this condition. You can find out how they experience things, and so yes, Sorry, what was that? I just lost the question. Um,
No, I don't know. But one thing that I was thinking about though was um I put something out. I can't remember where I put it, but it was like a meditation that I did. And I typically, because I'm so visual, I will often say, envision a waterfall and imagine you're standing underneath that waterfall and imagine the crystalline water. But I've started to include in the meditations that I lead, visualize or sense or feel a
so
waterfall.
yeah,
So if I was to say that, and somebody said, thank you, because I don't see things. So thank you for saying at least the word sense, because that kind of includes the other things. It's almost like it's going to be it's 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 discriminatory to just say see this, envision this, and not include the other people that have a more diverse way of receiving input. So would that be helpful? Do you teach me how I can be better in that area?
yeah, no, I think you're already off to a great start, and that's actually where I was going with my comment is that you can learn from a lot of people on Reddit that yeah, meditations are hard because like they never now they understand why, but they've never enjoyed them because they were not sensory enough. So for me, my sensory ability is more feeling. But some
Mm,
people do have other senses. And so I'm in the 1%. So you can capture many other people through other senses, but body sensations, like what they hear and like while they're lying there, like notice what you're hearing. Are you hearing birds outside? The present senses uh,
mm.
are very helpful as well. Yeah.
The present
So,
senses.
like, what I'm hearing while my eyes are closed, or
Right.
if my eyes were open, maybe it's what I'm seeing. Because yeah, that screen works perfectly well for
Okay,
me
what you're
personally,
hearing.
hearing and
And
seeing.
then what about like the taste of a chocolate chip cookie? Can you get a
Yeah,
sense of that?
yeah, no, no. I just, so for anyone who's wondering, um, if they have this condition and to what extent, there is the Aphantasia Network, and it's aphantasia.com, and I think you can
Anaphasia or aphantasia?
sorry,
Was
I'm
I
sorry, aphantasia, sorry,
okay. No.
aphantasia.com. Aphantasia.com, Aphantasia Network. There is a survey you can take. That one is $20. You could probably find some other surveys, but that takes you through 54 questions and tells you where you rate. And they do have a chocolate chip cookie video in there, and then they ask you a bunch of questions on it, and I learned I had none of the senses. So, yeah, that was interesting,
Well,
because I
you make up for it with all the other things that you do, just like if somebody's I mean, not to say the FOMO might not be real. I don't wanna minimize that, but I also wanna say the proof in some way is in the pudding. Look at what a beautiful life you've created, and you create beauty, and you have such a sense of I mean, your books are amazing. If anybody has seen Skybound, oh my goodness, I don't have it right next to me. Yes, I do. I have it somewhere. I'm gonna
I
find
got
it.
it right here.
I have it right. Oh, it's right here. It's right here. Skybound. Okay, this look at this book. And yeah, it's so I mean, it's the balloon lady. I mean, all and this is kind of like that library that you're going to be going to in Oxford. This anyway, it's anyway.
Well,
I think I don't know if I was God, I would say let's give her a Fantasia. Let's give her a mean older brother to whack out her sense of sight so that she'll be able to develop a passion for being able to have like to not just enjoy picture books but to create them. So I think there's some method in the madness.
well, I do like I think the reason why I'm a writer is because while I don't see images, I when I talk, I'll see the letters and the words. So words are my thing for sure.
Mm, and you're so
'Cause I
good
think
with
that's what
those
I'm
words.
left with at the end of the day without senses.
I'm just going to pick a random page on your book just to hear some of your words. And this is from Skybound, starring Mary Myers as Carlotta. So here's just a random page. Here we go. Mary and Carl realized they needed two flight professionals in one, someone who could record the scientific data and electrify the paying crowds at fairs. Building better balloons cost money after all. Mary lit up. She could do both. At first, Carl didn't take his wife seriously, so Mary made a list of reasons why she was the best person for the job, and Carl was sold. And I think also when I read Now I'm a Bird, I mean, the poetry in that, and you are just a beautiful wordsmith. So I just think it's wonderful to hear. And I'm sorry that Nancy T, her technology didn't work. But I know that she was talking about her daughter, because she's recently become, like, she's really gone full bore into the healing arts as a body code and energy code facilitator. And she found that when she was leading her daughter through some of these healing sessions, that her daughter was like, I'm not seeing anything. I got nothing. I don't see anything. And she's like, well, what about this? Can you see? And she was like, nope. And so she's like, and then she saw an article about aphantasia. I think that it's in the zeitgeist right now. And I think it's an important thing to understand, partly so that we create, there's tools so that people that have it don't feel so alone, don't feel like there's anything wrong with them. And also so that other people aren't discriminating or making people feel bad, or giving people other options about hearing things and feeling and tasting and all of that. So I think this is a very important thing.
Yeah, and thank you for highlighting it. A district in Texas just passed in the spring an aphantasia awareness day, which I think is great. So yeah, there are great resources coming out. There's great support, and I think like you said, it's in the zeitgeist, and I think it's fascinating to both sides. The people that have the rich visual imagination, and those of us who don't, to share. Like I asked you yesterday, like, okay, so you see things very visually. What happens when you're driving? Like, you have this screen.
Right? Isn't that a little dangerous? Probably. Yeah. Yeah, probably. But I was thinking about it, and if, I mean, a lot of people end up wherever they're supposed to be, and they're like, oh my God, how did I get here? Like, they had been in their own flight of fantasy, and they end up where they're supposed to be, even though they've had some running, like, daydream going on. And I'm probably one of those people. But but the way I was picturing it, I was envisioning my family members as you were talking, and it's almost like a very light but real screen behind the more vivid screen of what's actually physically in front of me.
So you see two screens going on.
I think so.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
And then when you dream, you've got a third screen. So I have the one screen, and it's fine. It seems like it's enough. I think I'd be terrified if I suddenly started seeing things in my mind's eye. At first, it would be really weird and disconcerting.
It really?
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'd want it at this point. It would, yeah.
Wow. I've always thought, and one of these days, maybe I'll write this, maybe you and I will write this thing. I want there to be an app that I was thinking, this is probably politically incorrect to say this, but 20 miles in your shoes, where we can all get to, like, press a button on an app and, like, actually step inside of somebody else's experience for 5 minutes or for 20 miles or for whatever it is, so that there's like a, wow, this is what it feels like to be you. This is how you see the world. This is, and this is one of the things I love about dreams, because I think sometimes our dreams can give us a sense of the energy or the reality of somebody else. I mean, like, one time I had a dream about a friend that I was going through a challenging moment with. And in my dream, I was her, and I was looking at Kelly through her eyes. So I woke up understanding why she was so mad at me.
That's
And I
amazing.
called her and said, "Oh my God, I think I get it." So it's, of course, I think I get it. We can never know 100% if we've actually been inside somebody's world. But wouldn't that be so cool to
That
just
would
be able to step in and then step out and come back to ourselves? But don't you think we need to, I don't know, there should be a
I
book about this or a movie or technology.
yeah, I think maybe it's a virtual reality experience of being someone else, and
Yeah.
yeah, that
But
yeah.
even deeper, like to
Mhm.
really take that drink all the way in and then come out of it with
Yeah,
that wisdom or that compassion.
compassion, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the most, I think, important
Yeah.
ingredient we can have in society is compassion for each other, and the more we understand about each other's inner and outer workings, I think the closer we can get to
Exactly. I will always love the saying that we can't judge somebody else's outsides by our insides.
Mm.
So we don't know what it feels like to be somebody else. So we could have FOMO, but then, oh my God, all of a sudden, if we were able to switch bodies, we'd be like, no, you might be like, I'm so glad I can't see those
Oh,
things.
yeah, so
Because
one
there's
of the
some things I see that I can't unsee. And
yeah.
it's like gonna haunt me, you know?
Definitely. So that term, in fact, like I never really understood it until now. I mean, I thought I did. I can't unsee this because you
Uh-huh.
really can't. You see it.
Right.
I can
Exactly.
unsee lots of things. So in it, some of the benefits for me in having this is that when I go to sleep, curtains are drawn, lights are out, it's dark and cozy. I'm asleep in 30 seconds. I
Do you
don't
sleep well?
so
Are
well.
you a good sleeper?
I'm a
Okay.
great
Well, there you
sleeper.
go.
So and I have others in my home. My kids they can't sleep, and I now understand more because they have visual imagery going on all the time. Another thing is if you've had a trauma, if you PTSD,
Yeah,
you
that's
you
true.
keep seeing the imagery and feeling the sensory experience of what you went through. I can't bring up that imagery so vividly, like, I can remember the idea of something traumatic, but so it
No wonder
might
you're so forgiving.
it might not impact me in the same way as someone else,
Right.
like, I was reading, someone had posted a near-death experience where a tree almost fell on them, and they said, "I just can't stop seeing this over and over and
Oh,
over."
wow.
So, I think I could think about that it conceptually happened, but I wouldn't have to keep seeing it. So those are a couple of the benefits, I think. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I am so grateful for you taking your time right before your trip to Europe, where you're gonna be seeing so many beautiful things that you'll take
thank
pictures
you.
of, so you could
Yeah.
share them with me so that I won't be able to unsee all the beautiful things because 'cause I'm gonna wanna see all of that. So Sue
Thank
Gans
you.
Schmidt, you are amazing. Again, your most recent book, Skybound, starring Mary Myers as Carlotta, daredevil, aeronaut, and scientist, soon to be a series at some point.
Working on it.
Working on it.
Thank you.
Exactly, and then the Monsters on the Block series as well.
Working on that one as well. Yeah, I'm working on development for TV and streaming series, so some things are being developed. We'll see what happens.
So clearly, if anybody is watching or listening and you have aphantasia, and I want to say watching, listening, hearing, sensing, feeling, then just know that if you're anything at all like Sue, there's nothing that can stop you from having a very rich and full and glorious life. In fact, maybe if you have this deficit, it might even prompt a greater passion for the visual arts in some way, or to be a part of art in some way that, and you do your part and other people do theirs. So, Sue, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Nothing can stop you from your creative dreams. It doesn't matter if you have aphantasia or nothing can stop you. Just go for it.
What would Carlotta say? This, not even the sky's the limit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there is no limit. There's no limit.
No limit at all. All right, everyone. Sweet dreams. Until we all meet again, don't take your dreams lying down, even
Thank
if you've
you.
got aphantasia. Thank you for listening to the Kelly Sullivan Walden Show. If you enjoyed this episode, take a moment to like, subscribe, comment, and share it with your friends. My show can be found on Apple iTunes, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to order my new book, A Crisis is a Terrible Thing to Waste, go to your favorite online or brick and mortar retailer, then head on over to kellysullivanwalden.com tragic2magic. Input your order number and redeem your bonus gifts. I'm also excited to be offering a DreamWork practitioner training. So if that calls to you, go to kellysullivanwalden.com/DreamWork. If you'd like to join me for the live recording of these shows, most Wednesdays at noon Pacific, you can find me on Facebook at Kelly Sullivan Walden Dreams. If you have a question about your dreams or about how to transform your tragic into magic, email me at kelly@kellysullivanwalden.com. Until next time, remember, a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. And as you awaken to the power of your dreams, you make the world a lighter, brighter, more beautiful place, one dream at a time. Sweet dreams.